Back in Pokemon Black and White, you can receive an event Zora. Now, to get it, you will need to first transfer a Celebi over to Black and White using the Relocator, a option that exists in the menu. Now, what does it do? Well, basically allows you to transfer Pokemon from the past games into Black and White. Once you've done this, you can take the Celebi with you to a building within Castelia City, where you might find a girl, which will be alongside a girl or a boy, who apparently have been lost. If Celebi then pops out of its Pokeball, it will, well, discover that the lost girl will have an illusion on it, and it turns out it was a Zorua. You will then be prompted to actually, well, have the Zorua join you. And to do this, you would need a Pokeball in your inventory. And you can use any Pokeball. You get to choose which one Zorua is going to go inside of. If you don't have one, you will need to get one, otherwise you will not receive the Zorua. Once you've done that, you will have a level 10 Zorua on your team. If you wanted to receive Victini in Black and White, which was the game that introduced it, then you were a bit in trouble if you didn't get the Liberty Pass. This was a special item that was distributed in the first Wi-Fi event for Black and White. Once you have the ticket, you'll then gain access to a special area in Unova. You will find Victini in the wild. This will then allow you to capture it if you interact with it, and you're pretty much set and you've got one. And this was the only way to actually obtain it, so doing this Wi-Fi event nowadays is not really possible. There are workarounds, but for the most part, this was the only way to actually get it. The Lock Capsule was an item that was added in specifically Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Pokemon Black and White. This was supposed to be an item that would allow you to, well, gain access to a specific TM, that being TM95 Snarl, but it was never released in, well, the games. They had it in Heart Gold and Soul Silver and Black and White, but it was never obtainable. You could never receive it, you could never get it. It was literally just there, but unusable. And, well, there you go, guys. You were supposed to be able to use it in the games, but it really couldn't do anything. The Lock Capsules were never distributed by the Pokemon Company or Nintendo, so kind of a useless item. If you guys didn't know this, but back before these games came out, Black and White, Ken Sugimori, the lead artist and designer over at Pokemon and Game Freak, specifically said in an interview that Oshawot's Japanese name was originally supposed to be Arakomaru, the name then being a combination of, well, the word Raku, which is sea otter, and Maru, round. So that was supposed to be its original name, with its current name being Ijumaru, which is the name of Oshawott in Japanese. And in Pokemon Black and White, there was also a quite interesting thing: in-game trades after battles. So in most Pokemon games, there are trades that you can do with players and characters in the game. However, this game is a bit different, where if you trade your Pokemon to different trainers, for example, Lass Aya, if you trade with her, unlike most previous Pokemon games, in this one, once you've beaten the Elite Four, once you've finished the game, in the post-game, you can go back to these trainers. They will end up using fully evolved forms of the Pokemon you then traded them. So this doesn't happen with every one of them, but some of them do, and one of the examples is in the Kreen City, that you have the character named Lass Aya, and if you battled her originally, she would have had a Cottony or a Patilli that you would have, well, traded her, and then if you go and talk to her again, she will now have a Whimsicott if you're playing Pokemon Black version, and a Lilligant if you're playing Pokemon White version. So either one of those if you battle her, which is really awesome. It means she kept them, evolved them, and leveled them up to level 65. In Black and White, you also had the Royal Unova. Now, this was a ship you wouldn't be able to actually access until you had actually beaten Pokemon Black and White. This was a ship that was docked by the Pokemon Center in Castelia City, and as I mentioned, you would need to receive the National Dex first, and then you'd be able to actually access it. So, once you access it, well, guess what? It sets sail at specific times, only once a day, and when it's sailing, time can vary between seasons. So, during spring, it's between 17 p.m. to 7 or 8 p.m. Then during summer, it's between 7 and 9. At autumn, it's between 5 and, 8, I guess. And winter, it's between 4 and 7. So it costs you about 1,000 Pokédollars to get on. However, there is actually a catch. There is a time limit to actually being on the boat. And once that has passed, the boat redocks at Castelia City, and it gives you, an item based on the trainers you have defeated on the ship. And also, it's a really cool scene where you can go onto the deck and you'll be able to see, just this beautiful overview of Castelia City, which just looks gorgeous. And on top of that, there are trainers on there, which depends on who you defeat, and you will be rewarded with different things. So depending on who you take on, you might get a lava cookie or even a rare candy. It just depends on who you actually take on, how many people you defeat, and on what day. So on Sundays, if you take on, I guess, 7 trainers, you could get a rare candy. So it's a really great way to get a few items, and also just a cool place that a lot of people just didn't explore. There seems to be a possible Nintendo reference to other Nintendo games in Pokemon Black and White. There are these props that you can receive receive in the game, these musical items and things along those lines, but also these props they can put on your Pokemon for the Pokemon musicals and the equivalent to Pokemon competitions. One of them is a toy sword, which is similar to the Master Sword from Legend of Zelda. One is a top hat that looks like Professor Layton's hat, a wind-up key, which looks like Mario's key from March of the Minis, and then a red parasol that looks like Peach's parasol. So what do you guys think? Well, it could be related to Nintendo games or not. This is something we mentioned in our previous video about Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, about specifically getting different kinds of trainer card colors. So, how do you get the different ones? Well, to get the black and white card colors, you need to complete the National Dex. For the gold card, you need to obtain all the Pokemon musical items. For the green card, you need to begin with, well, this one. You need to start with this one. This is the green one. Purple card is for defeating the Elite Four. The red card is to get a 49 streak in both the Super Single and Super Double Subway, lines, in particular in the Battle Subway, so good luck with that. And the silver card is obtained from all the Entralic powers. So there you go. Basically, these are different colors for your trainer card that were only obtainable through these methods. In Pokemon Black and White, on New Year's Eve, on December 31st, they will actually start raining diamond dust over in Isra City. If you go there, yes, there'll be diamond dust. This is to celebrate, and this is a Easter egg that exists there. Pokemon Black and White had the largest amount of musical changes out of any Pokemon game, and it was kind of incredible. Listen to all this. You had seasonal changes for the music. So based on the season, which changed every month, basically, when it changed, the music would also change. For example, on Route 2 to Sky Arrow Bridge, you would hear during spring a flute and a louder arrangement during summer, and during autumn a piano edition, during winter chimes in the intro. On Route 4 and onwards, you'd have during spring the basic music, then during summer louder arrangement, and then during autumn xylophone edition, and winter there will be chimes. So that's not all. There's also movement-based changes in the game. In some areas, the music will be just static music, but it does in fact change when you make steps, adding to the beat while you're walking around. So on Route 1, there will be an added tambourine. However, on Route 2 to Route 16, there will be a snare drum added for when you're walking around. Literally, every time you take a step, there will be one. Then there's also instrument additions. So in various different places around Unova, there are various characters who are playing instruments. Now, these characters can add their instruments to the music of the area. Some are only active while you're within the area, while others are active non-stop after you talk to them. So certain ones you can talk to, and then they will be constantly playing it in the music afterwards. So for example, in Akeluma Town, on the top right building, there's an individual that plays a piano. After talking to the character there, you'd have constantly be hearing a piano in the background until leaving the building. In Akeluma Town, there also is in the top right a person who plays drums. After talking to that character, they will also play the drums, infinitely. There are also other characters, for example, in Icarus City by the gym, who claps, and when within earshot, you can hear that. If you go to a house on Route 18, when you enter this house, there'll be a tall guy with a red suit and a hat. If you talk to him, he will offer you a Pokemon egg. You should accept it, because if you take it, you'll discover that what's inside of it is a Larvesta. Yes, a Pokemon that would eventually evolve into Volcarona. And speaking of Volcarona, you can actually go down into the Relic Castle. After you've received the National Pokedex, you'll gain access to a new part of the Relic Castle in the Desert Resort. After following some caves similar to the design of the Turnback Cave, you will find Volcarona right at the end of it. It's of course going to be a bug fire type, and also a very, very, very strong Pokemon at level 70 in this case, with Quiver Dance, Heat Wave, Bug Buzz, and Silver Wind. You guys know that the names Pokemon Black and Pokemon White were actually trademarked and registered by the Pokemon Company and Nintendo already back in 2008, way before these games were actually released, so kind of an interesting point. The Seeger was a tool that was added into these games in the bottom screen, which you could have, and it would allow you to actually change different skins in it. However, there were specific rare ones that were only available through Global Link promotions. These are not actually possible to get anymore, but if you're able to modify the game, you can still get your hands on them. However, to get them in the legitimate way, it is not possible anymore due to the Global Link shutdown and everything related to the DS Online being shut down, but these were pretty cool though. If you transferred over Raikou, Entei, and Suicune from your previous games to Black and White, you'd then be able to get access to the location known as the Lost Lorn Forest area. This area will then feature a character who mentions that a Pokemon that has been known to create illusions is around here. You will find a Pokemon matching one of the beasts they didn't transfer over. If you send over Raikou, you will see Entei. If you send over Entei, you'll see Suicune. If you send over Suicune, you'll see Raikou. When you attack this Pokemon, you'll see in fact that it's a Zoroark. This is the only way to actually capture Zoroark arc in these games. You can get Zorua separately, we talked about earlier, but that's a bit of a different event that requires a Celebi in this case. But this time around, it requires you to have one of the Entei Raikou Suicuns, most likely from Heart Gold Soul Silver. This person on the bridge will basically scam you. Yes, on the Marvelous Bridge, this guy will talk to you, and you can essentially just purchase for 500 Pokédollars a rare Pokemon. But unlike in Red and Blue, however, the Pokemon he sells you is rare and can't be obtained anywhere else in Unova. It is Magikarp. So yes, this is the only way to actually get one, and it's from this dude. It's going to be level 5 and just no splash. So yeah, technically, he is scamming you, but not at the same time. If you guys have fossil fever, then go into the Twisting Mountain Cave. There will be a man here who will give you a fossil once a day after you've obtained the National Pokedex. Now, these fossils are the fossils of the Kanto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh region Pokemon. You can get one of these at random each day, so you have more or less an unlimited supply of these fossils. So if you want them, the following ones that you have here is Omanite, Kabuto, Aerodactyl, Lileep, of course Anorith as well, Cranidos, and Shieldon. So these are all the Pokemon that you've got as options, and of course you can evolve almost all of these minus Aerodactyl. So there you go, ladies and gents. Something that a lot of people do not end up doing is actually entering the Dream Yard, which I'm not really sure if it's even available anymore, but if you do enter it, one of the first few Pokemon you can gain access to is one of the following, gifted to you by a lady who will gladly give you one of these. So it's one of the ape Pokemon. The Pokemon that you receive, however, was not up to you. It's instead a Pokemon you get that's the type that's weak against your starter. So if you choose Snivy, you get a Panpour. If you chose Tepig, you'd get a Pansage, and if you choose Oshawott, you get a Pansear. And they're all at level 10, so they're quite handy if you need them against your first gym and whatnot. But then, of course, you would need, as I mentioned, to make sure that you have your hands on the Dream Yard, which I again do not know if it's even possible nowadays to do anymore. If you guys go to Route 15, in the first house you come across, you'll find a girl character who's looking for a Ditto. Now, in exchange for giving her a Ditto, she will offer to give you none else than Rotom, the electric ghost type Pokemon. This thing will be quite a high level actually, as far as I'm aware, level 60, actually also carrying the item Max Elixir with Gentle Nature. And this thing is quite interesting, so you'll be having to trade it over for her, and then you have a Rotom in your team. And speaking of Rotom, you can also go to the department store. The department store is located at Route 9. In this store, there is a room that's filled with multiple different boxes, and if you interact with them, you'll be able to change the form of your Rotom, and these Rotoms all have different special attacks. As you guys may know, you got Mo Rotom, Frost Rotom, Heat Rotom, Fan Rotom, and Wash Rotom. You got all the different forms of it, and you can get them all in this location. Now, if you guys have a Giratina in these games, and you want to have the origin form of it, well, guess what? You're in luck. After you've defeated the Elite Four, and you go over to the Cycling Road in Route 16, you will actually encounter the squad known as Dark Trinity. And these guys will then be apologizing to you and giving you the items, the Adamant Orb, Lustrous Orb, as well as the Egregious Orb. And once you have this, you can attach it to your Giratina, and it will change to its origin form as well. Speaking of forms, you also do have Shaman, which can also do the same thing. However, Shaman's alternate form is also only available after you defeated the Elite Four, and when you go over to Lacunosa Town in the Pokemon Center with a Shaman from an event, so if you transferred it over from a 4th generation game or a previous game, you talk to the lady here and she will give you a Grissedia key item, and this will then be given to your Shaman, and it can turn into Shaman Sky between a certain set of times. If you guys want to get one of the coolest looking shinies ever, Shiny Rayquaza, you could get Nobunaga's Rayquaza in shiny form back in these games. This was only available during March 17th, 2012 to April 16th, 2012 in Japan, which is unfortunate because this was the 9th Japanese Wi-Fi event for Black and White, and this was to celebrate Nobunaga's Rayquaza from Pokemon Conquest. So it was really cool. It was level 70, it had Dragon Pulse, Ancient Power, Outrage, and Dragon Dance. Again, best looking shiny ever. If you guys received a Meloetta from a special event giveaway, you can then take it to the cafe in Castelia City. When you go here, you will essentially be able to teach Meloetta that it lost its voice in times past, and it will then soon be inspired and will finally start singing. Doing so will allow you to teach it the special move Relic Song, which will change Meloetta's form in battle whenever used. So yes, you'll be able to teach it Relic Song, and you'll be able to get Meloetta's secondary form. Speaking of forms, actually, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to give Genesect its its different forms? Well, guess what? You just have to head over to the P2 lab. Now, first of all, you would need to obtain a Genesect from a special event, and then if you go with that Genesect to the P2 lab, you'll find a scientist in there. He will tell you about how he was been researching Genesect and modified it to aid in Team Plasma's evil plans. Now, once you talk to him, he will tell you that it failed, but he won the approval of N with his methods. So, he will challenge you to a battle. If you defeat him, he will gift you with 2 special drives. These different items will then, when attached to Genesect, change its typing of its special move, Technoblast. There are 4 drives and they're exclusive to each game. So for example, the Burn drive is for Pokemon Black, the Douse drive is for Pokemon White, the Chill drive is for Pokemon White, and the Shock drive is from Pokemon Black. So basically you're limited to which ones you can get in this case. In summer, when Undella Town is filled with holiday makers, you can actually find a trainer who wishes to have a Chinchino. In exchange for giving them a Chinchino, they will offer you a Munchlax, the pre-evolution of course, Snorlax, as you guys may know. And this is pretty cool, because this thing will be level 60. So yeah, just give him a Chinchino, and this is only during summer months only. Keep that in mind, otherwise you cannot receive it. If you guys sent over a Deoxys over at the Poke Transfer on Route 15, you can then actually take it to Nacrene City, where there will be a meteorite on display in the museum. Now, if you actually interact with this meteorite with Deoxys in your team, you'll be able to change its form, and you can't select the form. It will just kind of cycle through them in the order. So normal form, attack form, defense form, and speed form. That's pretty much what you're gonna have to do if you want to change the form of Deoxys. But first of all, you gotta transfer one from a previous game. When you're in Icarus City and travel to one of the houses in the southeast, in the kind of end of the whole area, you can talk to a biker guy here at the back, and you will actually learn that this guy used to be a Team Rocket member and actually has a distinct vocal style. So those were the list of the Pokemon thingies we had for Black and White. You guys can let me know in the comment section down below what game you want to see next. Thanks for watching. See you next time.